All right. So homework day 4 starts out with perimeter of a square or a rectangle. When you do perimeter, you're talking about the distance around. So if I would go around all 4 sides of my shape. So to find perimeter, normally you can just add up all the sides, but since we have a square, they're going to tell you that the formula for perimeter is 4 times the length of the side, because all the sides are going to be the same. So in this case, we're just going to take 27 times 4. I'm going to let you grab your calculator and go ahead and multiply that out for me, just because it'll be quicker. Well, maybe not. 108. And when we do perimeter, our label is just in the plain units, because really I'm doing 27 centimeters plus 27 centimeters plus 27 centimeters plus 27 centimeters. So the label is just the regular plain units. When we do perimeter of a rectangle, because the lengths are the same and the widths are the same, they tell you that the formula for perimeter is 2 lengths plus 2 widths. 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. And it really doesn't matter which one you call the length and which one you call the width. Normally the longer one they'll call the length and the shorter one they'll call the width. So I'm going to take 2 times 24 plus 2 times 14 in this case, and multiply that out. On your calculator you don't need the parentheses, you can just use the times sign. 2 times 24 plus 2 times 14. The calculator knows the order of operations. 76. And again, our label is just in the plain unit, so 76 inches would be the perimeter of that rectangle. So go ahead and find the perimeter number 3 while I move my board up. So what you come up with for the perimeter on the rectangle?
30.
30. And it'd be 30 yards, and they are going to have you select the appropriate label to go on those. So you want to make sure you put your labels. When you find the area of something, what you're doing is finding the space inside. It's kind of like if we look at the floor and we're looking at all the little tiles there, we're trying to figure out how many square tiles can we put on the floor. In this case, when we find area, the area is going to be the length times the width, because if I made a whole bunch of little squares and made this 13 by 7, we'll pretend it's 13 by 7 when I'm done drawing. Something like that. I could find all the squares in there. So my length is 13 yards. My width is 7 yards. And so if you take 13 times 7, you come up with 91. And in this case, my label is going to be in square units, because I'm taking a yard times another yard, which is yard squared. And thinking about what area means, I'm filling it with squares that are each a yard in size. When we find the area of a square, you're still thinking of length times width, but for a square they're going to be the same thing. So for my area for my square, they're just going to say you take the side to the second power, because I'm going to take the 24 meters times the 24 meters, or 24 meters to the second power. So if you do that, you would end up with...
How do you have the second power?
There is, you can either do the x squared key or caret 2, and then hit equals.
Okay.
So we get
576.
576, and again, my label's always going to be in that squared unit, so meters squared. And so on number 6, if you go ahead and find the area of that one, you come up with 108, and my label inches squared. 108 inches squared. Circumference and area of a circle, they're going to ask you for both. They're going to switch them around. Sometimes they'll ask for circumference first. Sometimes they ask for area first. There are two different formulas for circumference. I like to use the same one all the time because that way I don't have to memorize two formulas. Okay, I already know two of them, but for circumference, I do 2 times pi times the radius. For area, I do pi r squared. Since I have to use the radius in the formula for area, I might as well use the formula for circumference that uses the radius. The other formula for circumference is just taking pi times the diameter, which is 2 times the radius. And so in this case, they gave us the radius. The radius was 6 centimeters. They actually asked you to find the area first, but I would take 3.14, which is the value they tell us to use for pi, times 6 squared. So if we do the area first, since they asked for area first, you take 3.14 times 6 squared.
$113.4.
113.4, and my label, since I'm doing area,
Oh,
would be
0.04.
0.04. Better get the right number in there. 113.04, and my label, centimeters squared, since we're doing area.
So what's the top one?
Top one we're going to do now, because it said to do the circumference second, so
Oh, okay.
I probably should have written them the other way, but I wrote them that way. Circumference, I'm going to take 2 times pi, which is 3.14, times my radius, which is 6. And so if you take 2 times 3.14 times 6,
$37.68.
try that again, that doesn't sound right.
2 times
2 times 3.14 times, oh, 37, I thought you said 7. I just can't hear. 37.68.
Yeah.
And circumference is just like perimeter. It means the distance around. So circumference will just have the regular unit on. And so 37.68. Number 8, they ask for circumference first and area. So circumference again, we're going to do 2 times pi times r. Area, we're going to do pi r squared. However, on this one, they give you the whole diameter instead of just the radius. When they give you the diameter, you're going to take half of that to find the radius. So, of course, half of 6 is going to be 3 for our radius, right? So we're going to take 2 times pi times the radius, which is 3 then, in order to find our circumference. .84, and my label then would be in just plain feet, since it's in the regular units. Then we're going to do the area. The area is pi r squared, so pi is 3.14 times my radius, which is 3 squared. So 3.14 times 3 squared. 28.26, and my label is in square units since it's an area, so 28.26 feet squared. Number 9 then, it says find the circumference and area of a circle with a radius of 7 yards. So they went back to giving you the radius. Circumference, 2 times pi times r, area, pi r squared. So go ahead and find your 2 values there. We're doing homework day 4, and we're on number 9 for those of you that just snuck in. So for my circumference, we have 2 times 3.14 times the radius, which was 7. And you would come up with
307.73.
was the first part. 307. Oops. Two times 3.14 times 7. Yeah, I'm not getting that.
Oh, I squared it.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay. 43.96. And my label, just plain yards. On the area we're going to square, we're going to take the pi, 3.14 times the radius squared. So 3.14 times 7 squared.
One fifty-three.
153.86, and my label, since it's an area, is in squared units, so yards squared. And the next formula is for volume. On Alex, it tells you have to find the area of the base times the height. Well, the base in this case is either going to be a square or a rectangle, so normally you do length times width to find the area of the bottom times the height. Since this is a perfect cube, the length and the width and the height are all going to be the same thing, so they're going to tell you that you can just cube one of the sides. So if I take 5 yards to the 3rd power, again on your calculator you do have that x cubed key. It's right up here. So you would do 5 to the 3rd power. And 5 to the 3rd power gives you 125. So I get 125 yards to the 3rd power. Volume is always in cubic units. It's like filling them up with little ice cubes. How many ice cubes of the same size can I put in there? 125 in this case. So on number 11, when I do the volume of my what they call rectangular prism, which is a fancy name for a box, I'm just going to do length times width times height. The length times the width would give you the area of the bottom, and then times the height. So in this case, I would take 9 centimeters times 4 centimeters times 5 centimeters. And so when you multiply that out, you get 180. And my label, centimeters cubed, because I have centimeters times centimeters times centimeters. Centimeters to the 3rd power. Volume's always in cubic units. So number 12, again, we have a volume of a cube where our length, width, and height are all the same thing. So we can just take the side and cube it. So if I take 7 meters and I cube that, 7 to the 3rd power gives me 343 meters cubed then for my volume. And 13, 14, and 15 are volume of a cylinder. We think of a cylinder like a can. When you're doing the area of the base is going to be a circle. So the area of the base, you're going to take pi r squared to find that area of the circle. Then you take it times the height. So again, on Alex, they'll do this big, long explanation, but when it comes right down to it, there's your formula for volume of a cylinder. Pi, again, they're going to use 3.14. You have to be careful. Sometimes they give you the radius, sometimes they give you the diameter. My line's all the way across, they gave me a diameter, and I have to take half of that to find the radius. So if we take half of 19, we get what? 9.5, 9.5, right? Since we're probably using our calculator, we'll use 9.5. So 9.5 squared, and then times the height, and the height is 22. So 3.14 times 9.5 squared times 22. And again, on your calculator, you can either use the parentheses or just use the times sign, then you don't need the parentheses. Just put the times sign in between each of those. And you come up with
6234.47.
6,234.47, was it?
Mm-hmm.
And this one says, round your answer to the nearest cubic foot. In other words, it's telling you to round it off to the nearest whole number. So in this case, since there's a 4 in my 10th spot, I'm just going to leave that front part alone and say 6,234. And then, of course, I have to put my label. Since I'm doing in volume, it's going to be feet cubed. Feet to the third power. So 6,234 feet cubed. So number 15, same thing. I'm going to find the volume of my cylinder. I'm going to find the area of the circle, so pi r squared times my height. Again, on this one, it says my diameter is 14 feet, which means my radius would be 7. So 3.14 times 7 squared times my height, which is 38. I used the wrong number. 30. 58.47. And my label, feet cubed. So you get 5846.68. But since I have a 6 in my 10th spot, I ended up having to round it up to 47. Did I skip one of those? Or did I only have 2 on here?
No, you skipped the very top one.
I skipped the very top one. Yeah, I better go back and do number 13 then, huh? It's going to yell at me. Hard to keep track when you move the board sometimes. So, same thing on this one. They gave us the diameter of 5 feet. Since our volume is pi r squared h, the radius of that would be 2.5. So 3.14 times 2.5 squared times our height, which is going to be 30.
589.
You're faster than me. I didn't even type it in, but I'll believe you. 589 in my label, feet cubed. Alrighty, got that? The other day I did one wrong and nobody told me I did it wrong, and then after I looked at it later I went, I did that one wrong. So if you get a different answer, holler. That should be the end of the stuff that you have in your review section, but still in the review are a few other kinds of problems, but you'll be in the next little slice of your pie chart. Number 16 is just using the multiplicative property of equality with whole numbers that says if I have a coefficient in front of my variable, 4 times u, that I divide to get rid of my coefficient. So technically I'm dividing both sides by 4, so the 4's cancel out on that side. U is then going to equal 96 divided by 4. 24. So 24 is going to be my answer. Now also, since multiplication and division are inverses of each other, if I have something like number 17 where I have x over 2, which means x divided by 2, to get the x by itself, I do the opposite of dividing, so I multiply by the 2. Technically, again, I'm multiplying both sides by 2 so that I can cancel the 2's out, leaving the x by itself. 32 times 2, 64. So x equals 64. So number 18, if I'm going to solve that one for v, I'm going to go ahead and divide by 7. 91 divided by 7 would be 13. So v is just going to equal 13. You looking for your marker? Oh, sure, you're stealing my good eraser.
I'll bring it
I have more upstairs.
Just leave it for a minute.
Okay. The next ones are writing one-step expressions for real-world situations. So just translating this into an expression. One calculator cost me $D. I don't really know. In my mind, I think of something that would be easy to work with. So I say, oh, a calculator cost me $10. What is the cost in dollars of 11 calculators? Well, if one costs me $10 and I have to buy 11 of them, I'm going to end up multiplying 10 times 11. So in this case, I want to show D times 11. In algebra, we write the number right in front of the variable, and so D times 11, we show it as 11D. Yesterday, Maya had N baseball cards. Okay, she had 10 baseball cards yesterday. See, I like 10, it's easy to work with. Today, she got 11 more. Write an expression for the total number of baseball cards. Well, I had 10, I got 11 more. Hey, I added those together. So in this case, I had N baseball cards. I got 11 more, so I'm just going to show N plus 11. So number 21 says, in a given month, Kayla earns $1,372 and owes D dollars in expenses. Maybe she has $100 in expenses. What would I do in order to find my answer? I'm going to subtract, right? So I had 1,372. I have to take away whatever I have in expenses. In this case, it's a D. And so 1,372 minus D would be my answer. And I believe the last three, if I remember right, are just translating using inequalities. Keep in mind that less than points to the left, and greater than goes the other way, of course, points to the right. And if it has the bar underneath, then it has the or equal to in there. So all they're doing is having you translate y is less than or equal to 1. So they want you to pick out the correct symbol, which will be over on the side. The less than and greater than keys are also on the bottom of your keyboard. You can use those. If you want the equal to bar, you have to use the Alex buttons over to the side in their tool thing. But if you want to use the keyboard for these ones, you can, or you can just click to the side. 23, 4 is greater than C. I want to do it right in the order that I'm reading it. So 4 is greater than C. And the last one on here, X is less than 6. Hey, X is less than 6. Just picking out what is the right symbol in there, checking to see if you know what those signs are. All right, so intermediate algebra. We did through homework day 4. So 11 topics plus 11 topics plus 10 topics plus 8 topics is 40 topics. How many topics are on your pie chart? Anybody got their pie chart open? It's 200 something, but they're all just a little bit bigger. 234, that sounds right. That means we're 17% of the way done, because we didn't have class Monday and we started late. So minimum you'd want to be, even though our goal is 23%, is to at least have that first 17% done. If you're farther than that, great, because it will get harder than these things. Hopefully these ones are pretty easy, but you at least